Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about a case that's been making rounds in the US news. A story about a Filipino-American postal worker who got caught in a major theft and fraud scheme. Now let me start this video by making one thing very crystal clear. This does not represent the Filipino community. Most Filipinos, whether in the Philippines or living abroad, are very peaceful, hardworking, and law-abiding citizens. And when they move to the US, they often become some of the most respected and prosperous members of their communities. But sometimes a story like this pops up, and it's shocking because it's so far from the behavior we expect from the people we know and love. So in this video, we're going to break down what happened, how it happened, the consequences, and why cases like this, while rare, can have major ripple effects. But before we start the video, if you're not subscribed already, subscribe to the channel. I make content about the Philippines weekly, and you guys can support me and help me become a full-time content creator. So here's what happened, guys. A former US postal carrier, Marianne McDermott, a Filipino-American who was living what looked like a dream life. On social media, she was posting pictures of lavish trips to Hawaii, showing off designer shopping sprees, and even flashing piles of cash. Now, when you see this online, you might be thinking, damn, she might be doing great in her career, or she really accomplished her American dream. But according to federal prosecutors in Southern California, all that luxury was allegedly funded by something far less glamorous: stealing checks and credit cards straight out of the mail she was supposed to deliver. And this was not a one-time mistake. Authorities say it was a whole operation. It started with a trip to the postal office hotline. That trip led them to a Home Depot, where surveillance cameras caught her using a stolen card to buy a rug. From there, investigators started piecing things together, and it got ugly pretty fast. When authorities got a search warrant for her apartment, here's what they say they found. Stacks of cash everywhere. 113 credit and debit cards that weren't hers. 20 checks addressed to other people. A loaded ghost gun, which is, if you don't know, an untraceable firearm, which is extremely illegal. It doesn't have a serial number, it can never be traced or tracked. Designer goods worth over $21,000. Rolex, Hermes, Balenciaga, you guys name it, she had it. She even admitted to investigators how her scam worked. She would physically remove debit and credit cards from the mail, sometimes buying the real cardholder's social security number so she could activate the card. She'd even use a fake phone number through an app so she could make activation calls without revealing her identity. And get this, guys, sometimes she didn't even use the credit cards herself. She'd sell them to co-conspirators for about $500 cash. And what was the scope of this scam? It wasn't just about random credit cards. She allegedly targeted specific cards, prepaid debit cards that California uses to pay people on unemployment, disability, and paid family leave. That's dirty as hell, guys. That's crazy. Think about that person that got laid off from work and they were waiting for that unemployment check to pay their rent or buy food for their kids. Now think about that for a second. These are all benefits meant for people who can't work, or who are taking care of family members, or who are genuinely struggling. That's not just theft from a company. It's theft from people in some of the most hardest conditions. Prosecutors say she worked with others to cash stolen checks using fake IDs, and she hit up places like the Apple Store to buy expensive items too. You know, it's one of those crimes that really hits multiple layers of society. You got a postal service system, which people are supposed to trust. You've got ordinary citizens losing their personal information and money. And then you've got taxpayer-funded benefits being stolen. Now, one of the biggest turning points here is that prosecutors say McDermott confessed. And honestly, once they had the evidence, this is what one attorney called an airtight case. She quickly decided to plead guilty to bank fraud. As part of the deal, she agreed to forfeit over $8,000 in cash, her Rolex, and those high-end designer items. Now she's behind bars waiting sentencing, which could mean about 30 years in federal prison. Now, one thing that stood out in this case is how they actually caught her in the act. You see, according to the complaint, the Postal Service investigators actually mounted a camera inside her mail truck. They recorded her going through the mail, sorting it, and this is the key, pulling out certain pieces of mail and putting them into her personal mail bag. They believe that's how she was getting the stolen cards and checks back to her home. You know, it's one thing to suspect someone, it's another to catch them right on camera in the middle of it. So here's where I want to zoom out a little bit. because this is important. Yes, Marianne is a Filipino-American. Yes, she committed a serious crime in the US. But I just want to stress that this is not the norm for Filipinos living abroad. There are few and far between regarding Filipinos living abroad. In fact, the majority of Filipinos who migrate to the US do incredibly well. They work as nurses, teachers, engineers. Some are small business owners. They serve in the military. They contribute to their neighborhoods. I grew up in New York City where there are tons of Filipinos. When you look at the statistics, American Filipinos are among the most educated and financially stable immigrant groups in the US. So it would be completely unfair and frankly wrong to paint an entire community based on one person's crimes. That's why I wanted to cover this thoroughly and carefully. It's not a Filipino thing, it's a criminal thing. Criminals come from every background. So what can we all learn about this case right here, whether you're living abroad, you're a Filipino, OFW in the Philippines, waiting to go to the US? For one, if you live in the US, keep an eye on your mail, because this case here can happen to any which one of us. If you're expecting something important, like a credit card or a government benefit card, and it doesn't show up, you should report it immediately. And remember that sometimes social media can be a downfall for people doing shady things like this girl here. If someone's posting a lifestyle that doesn't match their own income, sometimes there's a reason for that. And understand that trust is a powerful thing. Postal workers are trusted with sensitive information every single day. Breaking that trust doesn't just harm individuals, it damages the system's credibility. So there you have it, guys. That's the story of Marianne McDermott. A rare but serious case of a postal worker gone rogue. It's definitely a reminder that while the world is full of good people, hardworking people, it only takes one bad actor to cause a lot of damage. But please remember, Filipinos as a whole are not identified by this. Most are honest, generous, and hardworking, whether here, in the Philippines, or abroad. If you found this video to be interesting, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments section below, and subscribe for more real-world discussions from my perspective living here in the Philippines. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.